5 signs you're living in an illusion matrix. Here's how to break free. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like your life was scripted? Like you were going through the motions, ticking boxes, chasing goals, checking your phone, smiling when required, but deep down, something felt off? It's like you're in a play but forgot the lines. Or worse, you never wrote them in the first place. That subtle background noise of discontent, that lingering sense that life should feel more alive, that's not in your head. That's the Matrix whispering. And no, I'm not talking about the movie, though it wasn't entirely fiction. I'm talking about the illusion we've all been born into. The system of beliefs, norms, and invisible expectations that shape our every move. And once you start to see it, truly see it, you could never unsee it. The first sign you're living in the illusion matrix is the simple realization that you don't know who you are. Let's start there. Who are you, really? Not your name, not your job, not your relationship status or your bank account. Peel those away like layers of an onion. What's left? Most people can't answer that. And that's the point. The Matrix thrives on that confusion. From the moment we're born, we're given labels, rules, and roles. We're told what success looks like, what beauty means, what we should want, who we should be, and how we should behave. We're measured, graded, compared, and slowly, the authentic self, the wild, divine, untamed self, gets buried under layers of programming. You're taught to become someone else before you even get a chance to discover who you are. That's the first trap, the identity trap.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
I know what you might be thinking, well, that's just how society works. Exactly. That's the illusion. We call it normal because everyone's doing it, but imagine this. You're born into a room with mirrors on all sides, and every mirror reflects someone else's opinion back at you. You grow up thinking that's who you are, but it's not. It's just a reflection of the Matrix. You've never truly seen yourself. Let me take you deeper. The second sign you're living in the illusion matrix is that your emotions are no longer your own. They've been hijacked. Have you noticed how your mood changes based on your phone screen? How a like, a comment, or a trend can elevate your self-worth or crush it in seconds? That's not random. That's design. The Matrix feeds on emotional manipulation. You're constantly being triggered, nudged, pulled. Advertisements tell you you're not good enough unless you buy. Social media shows you curated perfection, making you feel like you're missing out. News cycles keep you in fear. It's a loop, a perfectly engineered loop. And the more reactive you are, the more asleep you become. But here's the twist. You are not your emotions. You are the observer behind them. The awareness, the stillness, the silence behind the storm. But the Matrix doesn't want you to know that. Because once you realize you can observe your emotions without being enslaved by them, the illusion begins to crack. You start to wake up. That's the second step to breaking free. Begin to watch your reactions. Don't suppress them. Observe them with curiosity, with compassion. Ask yourself, is this mine or was this planted? That question alone can shift your life. Now, let's talk about time. The third sign you're living in the illusion matrix is the belief that time is your enemy. Think about it. We're constantly racing against the clock. Deadlines, aging, retirement. We're always trying to make time, save time, or run out of time. But what is time, really? It's a concept, a construction. Yes, the sun rises and sets. Yes, there are seasons. But the Matrix has taken a natural rhythm and turned it into a prison. You're either stuck in the past, replaying regrets, or obsessing about the future, chasing goals. Rarely are you here, now, this moment, the only moment that ever truly exists. And this is where the Matrix wins most. Because if it can keep you out of the present, it can keep you out of power. Real power only exists in presence. That's where intuition lives. That's where inspiration is born. That's where the divine speaks. But if your mind is constantly elsewhere, you miss it. The signs, the synchronicities, the inner knowing. You become a prisoner of time, always chasing something that's already within you. So how do we reclaim it? Start with awareness. Notice when your mind drifts. Notice when you're obsessing about what's next or what you should have done. Gently bring yourself back. Feel your breath. Look around. Listen. Life is whispering to you all the time, but you have to be present to hear it. That's not just spiritual fluff, it's neurological truth. The more present you become, the more your brain rewires itself for clarity, peace, and insight. That's how you begin to escape. Let's go even deeper. The fourth sign you're living in the illusion matrix is the worship of external validation. This is one of the Matrix's most powerful traps, because it preys on your deepest need to be seen, to be loved. But instead of showing you that love comes from within, it teaches you to chase it outside of yourself through achievements, applause, approval. But here's the paradox. No amount of external validation will ever fill the void created by self-abandonment. You could have millions of fans and still feel unseen. You could have all the success in the world and still feel like a fraud. Why? Because the Matrix has taught you to outsource your worth. But worth is not something you earn, it's something you remember. You were born worthy before the programming, before the conditioning, before the mirrors. You just forgot. And now is the time to remember. That's the fourth step to breaking free. Reclaim your inner authority. Start validating yourself. Not in an arrogant way, but in a sovereign way. Look in the mirror and say, I see you, I love you, I choose you. It may feel awkward at first, that's the Matrix fighting back, but keep going, keep choosing yourself, one moment at a time. And finally, the fifth sign you're living in the illusion matrix is that you equate safety with conformity. Think about it. From childhood, you were rewarded for fitting in, for following the rules, for coloring inside the lines. But your soul was never meant to fit in, it was meant to expand, to break molds, to blaze trails. But the Matrix punishes that, because a free soul is a dangerous thing. A free soul cannot be controlled, sold to, or manipulated. So it teaches you to fear your own power, to shrink, to settle, to stay small. But what if your fear was never fear? What if it was actually power, misinterpreted? What if the anxiety you feel before speaking your truth is actually energy rising? What if the discomfort you feel in fake environments is your soul reminding you that you're not meant to be there? What if your breakdowns are really breakthroughs in disguise? Let me ask you a question that could change everything. What parts of yourself have you been hiding just to be accepted by a world that doesn't even know who it is? The Matrix doesn't want you to ask that, but I do. Because only by facing that question can you begin to free yourself. Freedom doesn't start with rebellion, it starts with awareness. With the courage to see clearly, to question deeply, to feel fully, and to choose differently. You are not here to fit in, You are here to awaken, to rise, to remember. And I promise you, once you begin this journey, life will never look the same again. The colors will be brighter, the silence will speak louder, and your soul will finally exhale. The architect of illusion, how the matrix was built to keep you asleep. There is a reason it's so hard to wake up. It's not because you're lazy, it's not because you're weak, it's because the system, this intricate illusion we call reality, was never designed for you to become free. It was engineered to distract you, to sedate you, to keep your eyes fixed outward so you never look inward. The matrix is not just a metaphor, it's a living, breathing structure of belief, culture, media, and trauma that we all unknowingly feed. And the most dangerous part, most people defend it. They protect the very cage that traps them, insisting that it's all there is, that this is just how life is. But what if that's the biggest lie of all? Let's talk about how the matrix was built. It didn't start with technology, it didn't start with governments or corporations, it started with fear. Generational, ancient, inherited fear. The fear of being cast out, the fear of not belonging, the fear of suffering. And from that fear, humanity began to construct false gods. Money, status, control, approval. These became symbols of safety, of survival. And slowly, a system emerged. A system that promised security in exchange for obedience, comfort over truth, familiarity over freedom. And we bought in, not because we're stupid, but because we were scared. Because at some point someone taught us it's safer to follow than to feel, safer to numb than to know. But what is the cost of that safety? What is the price we pay to live inside the illusion? We lose ourselves, the real self, the wild, intuitive, radiant self. We trade our truth for validation, our dreams for paychecks, our inner knowing for external noise, and we call that life, but it's not. It's a performance, a simulation, a game where the rules benefit the few and confuse the many. And the longer we play it, the more we forget that we're players at all. We start to think the game is the only reality, that the scoreboard defines our worth, that the opinions of others determine our purpose. But who wrote these rules? Who decided that success meant burnout, that love meant possession, that intelligence meant memorization, that beauty meant conformity? Who benefits from those definitions? Not you, not your soul. The matrix is maintained by the stories we never question. Stories passed down like heirlooms, never inspected, only repeated. Be realistic, play it safe, don't stand out. You have to struggle to succeed. These mantras are not truths. They are prisons. And the tragic part is we teach them to each other. Parents to children, teachers to students, friends to friends. We reinforce the very illusions that keep us asleep. But there is a way out, and it begins with radical questioning. Not rebellion for rebellion's sake, but a sacred inquiry, a willingness to ask, is this true, or have I just been told it is? That single question is a doorway, because once you start asking it, you begin to see the cracks in the facade. You begin to notice how much of your life has been lived on autopilot, how many choices you've made from fear rather than freedom, how many dreams you've buried to fit into someone else's version of success. And as the illusion starts to crumble, something else emerges: your intuition, your inner compass, the voice you've been trained to ignore. It's quiet at first, like a whisper in a noisy room, but it's persistent. It speaks in feelings, in symbols, in sudden clarity. It guides you not toward comfort, but toward truth. And the more you listen, the more it leads you out of the maze, out of the roles, out of the noise, into something real, something ancient, something yours. But make no mistake, waking up is not easy. The matrix doesn't let go without a fight. It will send doubt, resistance, old patterns. It will tempt you with comfort, with nostalgia, with the familiar chains you've always worn. That's when you'll want to turn back, to crawl back into the dream. But if you can stay present, if you can breathe through the discomfort, feel the fear without feeding it, and trust the unfolding, you'll begin to taste freedom. Not the kind sold to you in marketing campaigns, not the kind that depends on outcomes, but a quiet, unshakable sense of I am here, I am awake, I am not who I was told to be, I am who I choose to become. And here's the most beautiful part. When you start to wake up, you become a mirror, a reminder to others that they too are dreaming. Your courage becomes their invitation. Your healing becomes their hope. You don't have to shout it. You don't have to convince anyone. Just be it. Be the presence that awakens presence. Be the silence that dissolves noise. Be the truth that breaks the spell. Let me ask you something that could change everything. What are you still pretending not to know? That question is a key that opens the door to everything you've been seeking, because deep down you already know. You've always known. The matrix didn't erase your truth, it just buried it under layers of noise, under years of programming. But it's still there, waiting, ready. And once you remember, nothing will ever be the same. The breaker of chains, what it really takes to free your soul from the illusion. Waking up isn't a single moment. It's not a flash of light or a dramatic escape scene from a movie. Waking up is a slow, sometimes painful, sometimes ecstatic unraveling. It's the peeling back of everything you thought was you, only to discover it never was. It's the realization that freedom isn't something you find, it's something you remember. And yet, to truly free your soul from the illusion, you have to be willing to let go of what you once called safety. You have to be willing to break the chains that feel familiar, even if they're slowly suffocating your spirit. Most people don't fail to awaken because they're incapable. They fail because they cling to identity, to comfort, to stories. We become so used to our suffering that we begin to mistake it for self. To break free, you must first become radically honest with yourself. That's the first real act of spiritual rebellion. Not honesty for appearances, but soul-level honesty. The kind that strips away your pride, your justification, your defense mechanisms. Ask yourself, where in my life am I settling? That question isn't meant to shame you, it's meant to shake you, because settling is the Matrix's favorite trick. It convinces you that good enough is the goal, that comfort is the reward, that keeping the peace is more important than living your truth. But your soul came here for more than comfort. It came here for expansion, for remembrance, for transformation. And that doesn't happen inside the lines. That doesn't happen through approval or applause. It happens when you step into the unknown, eyes wide open, heart in hand, ready to lose who you were to become who you are. But don't expect it to be clean. Awakening is messy. It'll shatter your relationships. It'll make you question your career, your faith, your past. It'll make you feel lost before you feel found. That's not failure. That's initiation. That's what it takes to break the spell. You have to be willing to die to the false self, to grieve the life you built on top of a lie. And in that grief, something extraordinary happens. You begin to come home, not to a place, but to a presence, a knowing, a stillness. You stop chasing and start being. You stop performing and start remembering. The chains don't fall off all at once, they dissolve. One belief, one choice, one breath at a time. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is to stop asking, "What should I do?" and start asking, "Who am I becoming?" The illusion matrix keeps you trapped in doing, always busy, always producing, always proving. But freedom is a being state. It's not about what you accomplish. It's about who you are when the masks fall away, when no one's watching, when you're alone with your breath. That's where the real you lives. And the more you connect with that presence, the less the matrix can touch you. You'll still move through the world. You'll still work, create, love, but you won't be doing it from fear. You won't be driven by lack. You'll be moved by something deeper, something eternal. But here's the paradox. True freedom requires responsibility, not the kind society teaches, the kind that demands conformity. I'm talking about sacred responsibility, the willingness to own your energy, to own your projection, to own your creation. The matrix thrives because we keep blaming it, but once you see through it, you can't keep pointing fingers. You have to take your power back. You have to look in the mirror and say, "I created this, and I can uncreate it." That's terrifying, but it's also liberation, because if you created it, you're not a victim, you're a creator, and that means you can choose again. You can rewrite the script. You can walk away from the lie and step into the unknown. And yes, people will think you're crazy. They'll say you've changed, and you'll smile, because you'll know that's the point. You didn't come here to blend in. You came here to disrupt, to awaken, to light fires in the hearts of those still sleeping. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be real, to be free. And that kind of authenticity is rare. It's powerful. It's contagious. The more you embody it, the more others will begin to question their own illusions. You won't even need to say a word. Your presence will speak for you. So I ask you, what are you still holding on to that no longer holds you? That question is a doorway. On the other side is everything you've been searching for: peace, joy, power. But you have to walk through. You have to release the known for the mystery, the control for the truth, the illusion for the infinite. The awakening is the revolution, how to live beyond the matrix and never go back. There comes a moment, quiet, unassuming, when something inside you says, "I can't unsee this." That's when the real awakening begins. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's a subtle inner shift, a new frequency you begin to tune into, and from that point on, life is never the same. You've stepped beyond the illusion. You've seen the strings behind the puppet show. You've tasted what it feels like to be awake. And though the world still spins and the noise still roars, you're no longer hypnotized by it. That's the revolution. Not in the streets, not in politics, but in consciousness. Because when even one person wakes up and refuses to live in fear, in scarcity, in separation, that changes everything. Living beyond the matrix doesn't mean escaping reality. It means seeing reality clearly for the first time. You begin to notice how much beauty was always there, hidden beneath distraction? How much love was always available, buried under performance? How much wisdom was already within you, waiting to be heard? You stop chasing and you start listening. You start reacting and begin responding. You stop conforming and start creating. That's when you realize the matrix was never outside you, it was inside. It lived in your thoughts, your beliefs, your conditioning, and now that you see it, the power shifts. You're no longer a prisoner. You're a conscious participant in the unfolding of your life. But awareness is only the beginning. The real challenge is integration. How do you live in a world still asleep when you've begun to wake up? How do you hold your center when everything around you is pulling you back into old patterns? This is where many fall back into the illusion, not because they forget, but because they get tired. Being awake in a sleeping world can feel lonely. It can feel heavy. But that is also your initiation, because the more you embody your truth, the more you become a lighthouse. Others will feel your frequency. They may not understand it, but they'll be drawn to it, not because you have all the answers, but because you're living a different question. What if I already am everything I've been searching for? To live beyond the matrix, you must protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. You must curate your environment, choose your inputs wisely. What you consume with your eyes, your ears, your heart, it all matters. The matrix is subtle. It will creep back in through the news, through fear-based conversations, through self-doubt disguised as logic. That's why you must build practices that return you to center. Meditation is not a luxury, it's maintenance. Stillness is not laziness, it's presence. Silence is not emptiness, it's where the divine speaks. Create space for your soul to breathe, to expand, to remember itself again and again. You will lose people, or rather you will lose versions of people who cannot meet you where you're going, and that's okay. Don't try to drag them into your awakening. That's not your job. Your job is to live your truth so fully that it gives others permission to do the same. Some will join you, some will resist you, but all will be touched by the authenticity you carry. That's how the revolution spreads. Not through force, but through frequency, through presence, through love, real love, not the conditional kind the matrix sells you, but the kind that sees through masks, that honors the soul, that recognizes the divine in every face, even those still asleep. You'll also discover that purpose is not something you find, it's something you embody. It's not a job title or a mission statement, it's the energy you bring to each moment. It's how you listen, how you speak, how you choose. It's whether you live in alignment with your truth, even when it's inconvenient, even when it costs you something. Especially then, purpose isn't out there, it's in here. And when you live from that place, you become unstoppable, not because nothing can hurt you, but because nothing can own you. So let me ask you, one last time, if you knew today was your last day inside the matrix, how would you live it? Not from fear, but from freedom. What would you say? What would you release? What would you dare to become? The awakening is not the end. It's the beginning of a life lived wide open. A life where you don't just survive, you remember. You remember why you came here. You remember the fire you carry, the light you buried, the truth you've always known but were too afraid to speak. Now is the time, not tomorrow, not in your next life. Now, because the world doesn't need more followers, it needs more awakened hearts, more embodied souls, more you. And so we end where we began. with a choice: stay in the illusion or step into the unknown. But know this, once you've seen the truth, the lie can never satisfy you again. The matrix may whisper comfort, but your soul is roaring for freedom. And that roar, that rising, unstoppable, untamed roar, is the sound of you finally waking up.